All right, we are live for the Friday edition of the Morning Check-In. And as always, looking forward to connecting. Happy Friday to everybody. Hope your day is off to a good start. And hopefully you have some interesting plans for this weekend. But before we get into the weekend, we got to talk about the quasi-corporate bailout disguised as a rescue package, yet an economy booster type of narrative that is going to surface pretty soon. But it's just another way for the Biden administration, I believe, to buy some time, especially between now and the election, and keeping this narrative that the economy is doing well and everything in between. So we're going to talk about that and a couple of other things. So as always, looking forward to connecting, man. Let me know if the audio is coming in well, if the video is coming in well, so that I know that I'm not talking to myself and that we can make this time together productive. And as always, the goal is to, connect with you guys, find out what you're keeping your eyes on. So feel free in the chat to let me know what other subject matters that are of importance to you that the community needs to know about, so that I can try to share my 2 cents on it and go from there. And as always, for sure, for those who are checking in, whether new or old, definitely would love to, get some, feedback. Best feedback is hit that thumbs up button or thumbs down, whatever works best for you, just so I know how things are going on my end here as I try to, put together a production that provides information and education. So, it's going to be a good morning, man. Looking forward to connecting as always. And so, busy week, I'm assuming for everybody. I know on my end, it's been pretty busy trying to be productive as best as I can in a multifaceted way. But anyway, let me give it a second, make sure everything is good. Throw me a thumbs up to let me know if everything is streaming properly. And then I'll get into some headlines and share my 2 cents around what's going on here. But as I've always said before in the past, as I've always said in the past, wherever the Motor City goes, that's where our economy goes. And apparently the Motor City, i.e. the auto manufacturing sector, is not strong. And I've been talking about it for quite some time. I've done more than enough videos highlighting how there's a lot of layoffs taking place within the Metro Detroit area, whether it be with the big three or the tier 1, tier 2, all the way down to like the lower tier manufacturer suppliers that are laying off. And it's hard to ignore. And that's why I believe the Biden administration is coming in with a green package because of all these layoffs. And I'm about to go through some layoffs that, you may or may not have been aware of in reference to the Motor City, because people are not taking on as much debt. And those who are taking on debt for the sake of swiping cars to sustain themselves, not necessarily to go out here and to splurge, just because the overall consensus amongst the consumers is not the greatest. And so people are cutting back on their spending, especially when it comes to vehicles. And I've, shared, I think I've shared, and I've seen stats of the used car industry prices coming down. They've discounted electric vehicles multiple times to the point where people are like, hey, I'd rather wait to buy an electric vehicle because they keep cutting the price, trying to incentivize people to buy them. So once again, there's a lot of issues with the EV market. I'm not a fan of it. I personally don't want a remote control car that needs to be charged every night to go around the block a couple of times, but that's just my 2 cents. Anyway, all right, so thumbs up in the chat, man. Appreciate you. Let me know where you're watching from if you don't mind. And also, if you're watching the replay, check in on the comment section. Let me know where you're watching. So I'm going to typically do some, share the resources, get into the headlines. And in particular, I did a rant earlier in the week over on Rumble about, platinum and palladium and how there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes that will definitely cause some real price discovery really soon. So looks like China's getting in on our market. So for those who did, or if you didn't, not on Rumble, then you didn't see it. But anyway, all right. So I won't stop ranting and get into the news, man. Let's do it, man. So let me just get into it. Let me get some resources here up on the screen so that we can dive into it, man. Never know who might be new to the community. So I want to make sure I give everybody a chance to plug in. So as you can see on the screen here, how to unplug from the monetary matrix. These are 5 little methods that I've come up with, basically trying to share my work over the last several years of basically ways to think outside the box. And first, it starts with the RTD quiz, 10 simple questions make a world of difference. Then you move to step 2, which is the awareness period, plug it into contrarian viewed information via the reports that I provide, as well as join the email list. And then right above my head here is the allocation cheat sheet, which is basically a great summation of the entire journey of what we call a dollar. And then the fourth step is to act upon the knowledge you receive, and that is by getting physical metal in your possession. And of course, the RTD Silver team is a great way to partner with me and to automate your weight and to help others do the same. And then last is the assembly process. Connect with us via the community as well as all your other favorite content creators so that you can stay plugged in, because you cannot ever trust figures, stats that come from our government, because they lie, and it's becoming obvious, as we can see from the CPI figures yesterday. But then again, like, I'm thinking like grocery prices and the cost that I incur is nowhere near going down. But then again, we know what's going on. And then lastly here, for those who might be new and have not had a chance to check out Colonials Metals Group, I want to encourage you, if you haven't, to go to colonialsmetalsgroup.com/RTD. And from there, you can actually reach out and connect with the experts on how to protect and preserve your everything you've worked for, i.e. your 401k, IRAs, whatever it is that you may want to put it in your own possession via in gold and silver. If you fill out this form here, they'll contact you, ask all the questions you need to find out if this program is something for you. And if it is, then you can move forward. But if not, no big deal. And based upon all the stats and graphs I've done throughout the last week about what is actually within 401ks, a lot of people overall don't have much to lose. And so what little you do have to protect that will do you wonders down the line as the currency is debased further and assets that are undervalued will appreciate significantly. And then that's when you will be rewarded for the malfeasance that's been done against us from a monetary standpoint, because you'll be able to reap the rewards of having sound money in your hands, especially when it's priced in USD as it is deflated away. So you'll be a recipient of all that liquidity. But anyway, point in case is colonialsmetalsgroup.com/RTD. As you can see the number on the screen, give them a call and speak with them, and then just get questions answered and see if putting gold and silver in your own possession via a self-directed IRA is something that's good for you. So definitely check them out. Appreciate them supporting the channel and the community. Okay, so let me get rid of some windows here. I got too many windows open. All right, so let me find out what else is going on here. And also, for my stackers out there, I want to continue to remind people of something that I've taken advantage of, and I even recommended it to my family just because they're good keepsake numismatic type items. But I want to make sure everybody's aware of, in the description, if you're interested in taking advantage of the 2024 Trump presidential medal right here, you can grab yourself some from the affiliate link in the description. And they're just some great, very pretty coins that worthwhile to add in your stack. So if you're interested, links in the description. And definitely, you won't be mad when silver reaches full value. All right, so let me see. I see a super chat. Let me acknowledge this. Let me fix this so I can see it better. Give me 1 second here. It says, I can't read that. It's too small. Give me a second here. Let me get myself together. It says, Mike, I still catch your streams every now and then. Here's a small token of my appreciation. Have you heard of the so-called bird flu summit taking place in October of this year? Wow. JBW, appreciate the love offering, man. And no, I have not heard about the bird flu summit, but because you just mentioned it, you are going to cause me to go look it up. And I appreciate that. Bird flu summit in October. All right, so this is an impromptu news flash for myself because I didn't know about it. But then again, it's time to. So okay, so let's we're gonna start off with this one. Appreciate you, JB. So here we have typed in bird flu summit, birdflusummit.com, and let's see what's going on here. So October 2nd and the 3rd, and there's a workshop on the 4th. There's a workshop like once again, first thing comes to mind, Event 201, preparing for something, and it's in October. So I'm saying they're like going through their mock exercises and bringing people in to talk about, the workshop and exercises. And so, yeah, it's good to say that this type of stuff, if they're working on it, building around it, then obviously it's coming. Now, of course, we all know why, how, and for what. is simply more of a crackdown. Every government's already preparing for their medical procedures that they're going to recommend. And so I don't think I'll be registering online to go. But speaker, let's see who the speakers are at this event. And so I'd imagine, let me see, just we have Chief Biopreparedness Officer Sarah Made It. She got all her credentials here. Then we have Dr. Jana White, Deputy Local Health Authority. Then we have Anna Communicatable, an emerging disease manager. So it looks like just confirmed speaker. So another thing that's spooky, nothing that there's nothing wrong with it, but we have 3 young ladies here, all people who I have never heard of, but clearly they have worked hard to get to where they're at, and they have bought into the narrative of there being some type of event that is worth dedicating their life to. So, okay, so JBW, thanks for bringing that to our attention, man. I would have not had no clue. Somebody says Finland bought 40 million bird flu shots. I don't doubt it. VF says Redacted did a video on it. I think I might have saw the headline for that one. Viv said, check out the different workshop categories. It's full on dystopian stuff. Viv, you start my morning off wrong. But no, once again, like, we know what time it is. We know that, since the 2020, 15 days to slow the spread, I've noticed an intense ramp up in everything that's crazy, but then again, that's going in a direction that the powers that be want to take us in. And for the most part, 99.99% of people could care less or are awake or asleep at the wheel, so they don't care. So it's the people who tune in to shows like this that actually care. And we're a small few. We're a minority. So the biggest thing we have in our favor is to acknowledge craziness like this, shine light on it so more people can hear about it. And ultimately, it's nothing we can do directly as a small community. And one of the biggest things is literally, prayer. Like literally, pray, because clearly there's more power in a small number incorporated with prayer than there is actually, a small group of people just, on the air ranting about, oh, they're trying to kill us all. But once again, like, it's nothing we can do about it, but individually not participate in things like that. So, but I get your plans though. I get your plans. So yeah. So it's good. Like, it's good to say that after this presidential season, yeah, we're going to be in for a world of surprises. But then again, we should be surprised. Okay. So let me get back on track, but I appreciate you for that, bringing that to our attention, man. And if you got thoughts, ideas, suggestions, strategies, solutions, throw them in the chat, man. All right. What else we got here? Lots of things happening. Man, I got so much stuff I can talk about. We talk about the financial markets. I didn't even look. I know the PPI figures came out. Don't really care. Just because ultimately the biggest story that I think is something that we won't hear much about happens to be this quasi bailout disguised as a green deal. So wherever, as I mentioned, I'm being in the city of Detroit. Got to keep an eye on these things because the auto manufacturer is a key indicator to the health of our economy. And if people are spending it, going out and buying cars and stuff like that, I mean, that's good. If people are not, then that's bad for the auto manufacturers. That means that's more layoffs. That doesn't mean that that's more of the economy's doing great narrative that they can't no longer say. But it says here, Fed gives $1 billion to GM and Stellantis for EV projects. Once again, this whole going green, green new scam is just, it's amazing to me. But then again, I know that with this public-private partnership, all publicly traded companies are forced to go this route via the ESG, which for some reason people think is gone away. It's just quieted down because let me share something. This is this is not off topic, but it's relevant because, man, let me share this with you. So, I got about 3 or 4 quick takes on my list to do today. And so let me just share something with you that a lot of people, let me see. Did I save it? Maybe I didn't save it. Shoot. Okay. But it's the fact that Vanguard, Fidelity, and I think BlackRock, Fidelity, Vanguard, and BlackRock, I think, or State Street, Vanguard, and BlackRock. Those 3 companies own over 50% of the entire They own more than 50% of the entire SP 500, meaning that every company that's publicly traded, they're owned by the same they're owned by the same entities that are steering this narrative towards going green, and these products they're spinning off with ESG bonds and ESG credits and ESG. So that stuff is a part of their financial structure because it's how they earn revenue. So it's not going anywhere. It's just quiet right now. The whole point reason I bring this up is because all publicly traded companies that supply the world with goods and services or whatever, they are going to be in compliant with that agenda. Okay. So that means that every single company that is currently in operation somehow, some way will be linked back to the stock market, which ultimately goes back to those three companies I just named, and them having to comply with their shareholders' demands. And so, whether it be the manufacturing sector or the service sector, it all boils down to an agenda. And this green agenda is just another layer of what they're trying to create in forms of commodity or in form of products to create a whole financial sector around it. And all these sectors are more suppressive towards you and I, meaning that we'll have to pay to participate. And if we can't afford to pay, then we will do without. And so this whole green narrative of electric vehicles, stuff like that, it's a sham. But then again, it's their progression of their agenda. So the chance of us, meaning the people, coming to the light and stopping it is very slim. And so it's these certain individuals out here in the alternative media that I see who say like the white hats are winning, they're scrambling. I'm like, it makes it hard for me to see how they, meaning the powers that be that are from government to the public to the private, yeah, okay. And so Vu Transam says EV tech is controlling tech like blockchain. EV tech, or I mean, like just the tech in general, whether it be the blockchain side of things, whether it be, the TradFi, whether it be AI, or whether it be it's all a part of their agenda. And it has everything to do with the World Economic Forum. And so let me man, it's just so much stuff going on here, and I'm way off, but I just, I'm having fun. It's Friday, man. World Economic Forum. Um, they got, I'm sure by now everybody's seen their interactive map, but their entire playbook is on a visual, on an interactive map that, let me see, go back here. It's on a, okay, so okay, not this one. Where is it at? Okay, give me a second. But I think this is some valuable stuff here. But let me see if I can find it. Okay. So I just looking in. I just looked up World Economic Forum's interactive maps and can't find what I'm looking for. But strategic intelligence is what they're calling their digital transformation. And let me just move myself out the way here. It says here, strategic insights and contextual intelligence from the World Economic Forum. And it basically highlights everything to do with the world. And then you have the transformation maps. Transformation maps. What is a transformation? Literally, transfer map can help you explore and make sense of the connection between different economies, industries, and global issues. It is a dynamic way of exploring the transformational forces that relate to a topic such as climate change or artificial intelligence. So these little maps here is like a blueprint of every sector, every interconnectedness of this experience that we're going through, how they're trying to map it out. And they have thousands, if not millions of people employed in these departments on these maps, executing one agenda. Okay, enough of that. But back to the story at hand. So Fed gives $1 billion to GM Stellantis for EV projects. So that's what this is packaged up as. But this has everything to do with the fact that just within the last week, Stellantis is closing down the GM Ram truck facility, permanently laying off couple hundred. They've been laying off a couple hundreds over the months incrementally. They can't just come out and say, "Hey, we dump it. We ended everybody's job." But so beyond like, so when I saw this 1 billion, I'm thinking like, man, I'm thinking bailout because I know how bad things are here in the state, especially. And so it says here, Stellantis. Let me refresh this. Stellantis reducing shifts at Warren Assembly Plant, cutting sales. Citing sales and production. So due to a lack of sales and the production, they're cutting off. So the company said about 1,600 of the 3,300 employees will be impacted by the temporary layoffs. Okay, temporary. Then we have, what was the next article? We got the next article. Stellantis lays off for temporary shift cut at Warren Tech. And this was a couple days ago. So well before now, it's quite obvious that EV sales aren't picking up like that. And the fact that all manufacturers were forced to shift to this carbon neutral agenda by going green, bringing in this EV after post 2020 narratives, there's no demand from the public. So we're seeing the government intervene with this temporary bailout to buy some time, and I believe to buy time for the Biden administration between now and the election, because they can't have the narrative that A, EV sales are not anywhere what they want them to because people aren't buying into it, and two, it's putting a cramp on the numbers for all these manufacturing companies to where they're forced to make some decisions, which is to, as it says here, lay off permanently, lay off temporarily. And that's where the article about temporary is not the same article. I just read it from the Detroit Free Press, which says they're permanent. So it's like, okay, we got a national news saying temporary, then we got a local news saying permanent. But anyway, put yourself in the shoes of one of those individuals that got a letter or got a call saying that, starting this time frame, you won't no longer be employed here. And based upon a letter that or the news article I read, when it said permanent, it was on some like, it made it clear, like you're not getting the call back. But then again, this is all taking place just after, at the beginning of this year, we talked about how the UAW strike had everybody taking like, these massive like protests around the country. And for some reason, when the big three came back saying that, sure, we'll renegotiate, we'll give you more money, and we'll give you these benefits, negotiated, we'll, that everything is hunky-dory. And I'm thinking like, I'm like, what? Like, you mean to tell me they're fighting for fewer hours, more money, more benefits, and these manufacturing companies, which are only in business to profit for the shareholders, they don't care about the people who actually build and run the business. That's not their concerns. That they're going to give them all this at a time where they're already concerned with their, economic model, given this EV stuff is failing. So it's one of the things where this is bound to fail. But then again, we've been talking about this for some time, so it shouldn't be new. I'm trying to find some articles here to support my case because we talked about it before. But let's just keep going right along because I want to get into this more. So the Energy Department is giving out $1.7 billion in grants to GM, Stellantis, Volvo Group, and several suppliers to help support the EV's transition. So if people aren't buying, this 1.7 divvied up amongst all these manufacturers and suppliers will ultimately, I don't believe it will be used to rehire all these people that they're laying off. It's more so going to be used to keep the lights on for a moment, more likely, and or probably boost the share price of these companies, which will then allow the shareholders to reap more rewards off an increased share price because the government is giving grants. But once again, these manufacturers, I don't think they're asking for grants, but the government's giving them grants because they recognize that the economy overall is not great and the demand for vehicles is not there. And so they can't afford to let any narrative other than, this economy is going smooth type of narrative be hampered in this current election season. And so I'll just thumb through some things here that caught my attention, and then we'll keep it moving. But I think it's a lot we can learn. So I'll give it to you straight. Here we go. It says, let me get myself out of the way here. I made myself too big. All right. So it says, Overall, it says the Biden administration is giving a total of $1 billion to General whatever. It says overall, the federal government is contributing 1.7 to projects at 11 plants in 8 states. It says the grants include $500 million for GM's Lansing Grand River Assembly Plant in Michigan, $338 million for Belvedere Assembly in Illinois, and Stellantis idled last year, $250 million. So what's this? So if Stellantis basically backed away from the Belvedere Assembly Plant in Illinois, it was obviously for a reason. And so the government's now coming in and giving them 250 to now ramp up operations there to either further build out or to begin building. So imagine if they take these funds and actually continue to produce cars that people don't even want. And we've seen reports that there's the buildup of all these excess vehicles that aren't being sold are still on lots around the country, which is forcing them to have to mark them down. So literally they're building cars that are not profitable because they're losing on them. And so it's just, you see how, the government who has an unlimited checkbook can just do stuff like this and people don't question why or how. So they're bailing them out to buy some time just to get us through this election cycle before whatever. But it says the projects would create 2,900 jobs and retain 15,000 workers. So literally the money that's being dispersed, the government's saying this is how you will keep them on the payroll so that they're not laid off, so that the unemployment numbers don't tick up, because they're already at around 4%, which is high enough to really say that something's not right. But then they don't want the numbers to get out of hand because it makes it even that much harder to continue to fudge the numbers. So yeah, criminality at its finest. So the Energy Department said its domestic manufacturing auto conversion grants are funded through the Inflation Reduction Act. So they created 2 or 3 trillion and allocated, as one of the little fine prints in there, additional funds for the manufacturing auto conversion grants that supports production of EVs, hybrid, plug-in hybrids, hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. The program is designed to help companies make the switch from internal combustion engines to producing EVs and related components. The grants are covered in Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Maryland, and Virginia. So enough of that for now. But you guys see the narrative I'm trying to put here. Like, they can give as much funds as they want, which is a temporary patch or band-aid for an economy that's cratering, just because the average consumer isn't really concerned with a lot of the things that they need to remain of value so that jobs are still in place. And it's just bad. But then again, MK says last year Ford got a multi-billion-dollar loan from government and cut jobs a few weeks later. Right. So you got to wonder where these funds are going. They're not going directly to keep employees. But then again, them share prices, I'm sure, like the moment they got that grant, I wouldn't be surprised if Ford stock went like whoop. And shareholders, people, the executive boards beyond, and those who are, benefiting, the top 1% of people who actually have large portions of Ford shares benefited from that. But then once again, your average person, especially based upon our Vanguard video I did, where the average person who has a 401k, the mutual fund that they've been given, because you only have a certain amount to select from, and it's usually according to your retirement date, but you can allocate accordingly in it. But most people don't take the time to do that. And so literally it's just whatever is according to your risk profile. If you're younger, you got more risk. If you're older, you got less risk. And so they divvy it out whatever companies is hot at the moment, but they're all in the S&P 500, which I already mentioned is already inflated and owned by the 3 biggest hedge funds in our country. So it's like, okay. But enough of that. Okay, so bailout disguised as a economic recovery deal. Okay, sure, whatever. But let me share with you some other things that caught my attention. Let me see if I can grab them real quick here. It was an interesting. Okay, so this here is another little news bulletin I came across. It just shows you how bad the overall automotive industry has been for quite some time now. it says here are the top 5 surgery myths last week. Okay, but no. Stellantis lays off 1,600. Stellantis signals more job cuts ahead and costs. Ford plans to cut 1,600 jobs at Valencia plant. Toyota axle supplier Hino closes Arkansas plant, cutting 1,300 jobs. Lithia cuts jobs in Q2, hunts for 150 million in annual employee savings. So Lithia, a car company, cutting jobs to save 150 million. Troubled EV starter Fisker cuts more jobs this week. Workers says on social media, Lucid to cut 400 jobs. GM tries to lure Tesla's jilted interns during mass downsizing. So you got every single manufacturer of vehicles that were forced to go EV laying off in some capacity. And so here comes the grants to back up their desire to not have that. So here's another thing. Along with the lack of demand for EVs, U.S. electricity demand from EVs jumped to new highs in early 2024. So this is an older article, but like just the fact that if more people are forced to get rid of carbon combustion vehicles and have to plug in their car. So what's one thing? Like for me, you know, I just see so many electric vehicles now coming about. Not a lot, but more than normal. And to think that people have to install in their homes these electrical chargers, and I've seen so many videos on the internet of people comparing like their bills of their electric bill averaged out as to what it would cost to fill up a tank of gas. They're paying more in electricity than they're paying for a tank of gas, depending on what city they're in. And the gas car goes at least a quarter or half of the overall mileage further than an EV. So EV 200-300 miles with a gas car give you 400-500 or something like that. So I'm like, so you paying more and you're going less and you traveling less. It's like that sounds like a genius move. But then again, you got those people who like the world, I want to play my part. So yeah, so we see these graphs here and just like imagine they're always talking about, the grid. If our grid is so damn feeble and so weak, like you got everybody being forced to plug into it. That's just more, demand there, which means more, more alternative sources needed to supply this energy. And of course, nuclear will be one of them at some point, hopefully. But then like, carbon emitting coal, that's what most of this stuff is ran upon now. So it's like, anyway. Okay, so keeping it moving. What else we got here? Let's get us some more stories. What else I got here? Let me see what else I got here. This is something that will impact people. So not only will your costs for travel go up if you go green, be it EV and everything else, but your insurance, depending on what area you're in. And if you're in one of them designated areas that is labeled as a climate magnet, meaning that you're along the coastal lines or in the Gulf area where hurricanes are extremely intensified these days, your insurance costs are going to go up. Insurers hike rates as extreme storms like Beryl proliferate, bringing forecasts for fatter profits. So I didn't talk much about that hurricane that just swept through the islands, just ravaged the islands. And I think it hit down somewhere in the U.S., but I didn't pay attention to it. But regardless of that, severe weather fuels insurance rates. So depending on where you're at, from 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, Liberty Mutual. Liberty. I find that to be funny. Let's just look at the right now. Let me get myself out the way, man. Okay. But it says here, give you some figures as to what it says. Hurricanes and other severe weather have been fueling rate hikes for insurers, bolstering bottom lines and stock prices. Home insurers' effective annual rate change. So Liberty Mutual has gone up 17.2% as of 2023. Then we have Progressive up 10%. We have Allstate up 10%. Travelers up 10%. State Farm up 7.8%. So at these trends here of insurance costs going up on top of shaky employment, depending on what sector you're in, factored in increased costs for sustaining yourself. I mean, you just think about just these factors here. Like we're witnessing just like it's hard to say depressionary type environments because we have this image of like food lines and people out in the streets and kids like with bowls standing in front of like pictures, like the black and white pictures we've seen of the Great Depression. But depending on where you stand in the economic ladder, the lower tier of the economic ladder, i.e. the working class or those that choose not to work or don't work, they're probably experiencing the crunch similar to what the Depression felt like for those who lacked back in the 30s, and early 40s from what I heard. But anyway, like, and we're being told and sold that everything is good. The recession has been held off. They can have a soft landing. And I'm like, in what reality would that person be in that actually believes that? So yeah, just okay, just something worth, I'm sure that somebody has interest in. And then on to some other news events. Let me find out here. So yeah, like, okay. let me so these are just some last stories that caught my attention. Here's a storyline here. Democrats, the Block to Save Act in Senate allowing potential for illegal immigrant voting. And so literally the fact that the Democrats blocked the Save Act, which would require identification and make it prohibitive for foreigners that are not supposed to be here to be able to vote, they said, no, we don't stand for that. Senate Democrats have thwarted the passage of Save Act, a pivotal bill aimed at bolstering the integrity of federal elections by mandating proof of citizenship for voting eligibility. So literally, like, they're saying that we don't want it to just be restricted to people who are naturally born in this country. We want to open it up to anybody who breathes air in this country. And it's like, if people can't see how corrupt the Democrats are at face value, and they still, unfortunately, are brainwashed and deceived into thinking that is a viable option there, yeah, they deserve what they get, unfortunately. But yeah, but it says here the move follows a House approval of the bill with a narrow vote of 221 to 198. So 221 to 198. That means 221 people voted in favor of it, and 198 people voted against it. So those 198 people who voted against what should be something as just core basic logic for a fair election, they said no. So those 198 people support criminality and fraud and the fraud that takes place within the election process, even if election even mattered. But you just, it'd be good if they at least pretended like it mattered. And then it don't stop there. Biden announces new $225 million military aid package for Ukraine. And so all the funds that could be used elsewhere, they're bent on making sure Zelensky is a recipient of these funds through all the complexes, military industrial complex, all these complexes, which ultimately boosts the share price of these stocks of these companies that are getting these sales. And then all of Congress happen to be shareholders in these same companies, so they get richer. And so it pays to be in politics, to get voted in, to get inside information, to then go spoof up your portfolio, to get paid and have a lifelong pension, and you get paid because you can invest in companies that you're helping support. Man, that's the ultimate job, man. Like, I need to run for something. Anyway, I got more stories, but I'm not going to bore you guys. But these are some headlines that caught my attention, man. Bailout disguised as a green energy package hitting Detroit, and they still going to be laying off. So, yeah. But then again, this won't make mainstream news. And if it does, it'll be like the White House decides to step in and really put their money where their mouth is and really get this EV movement going so that people can really have a chance to, help the economy and help heal the planet. So anyway, Viv said this is the plan to steal next election. Yeah, and that's where, like, Viv, is it really stealing if it's already rigged? Like, because it's not stealing if you and I know that it's not actually meant to produce real results, And here's a little, you know, let me share with you something that I posted on the Telegram account yesterday. Somebody and I made a comment about it. Let me see if I can grab it. Um, I made a comment about it. So watch this real quick. This is from a screenshot that I grabbed yesterday and posted to the Telegram. So for everybody who's tuned in, if you are on Telegram, I hope you're inside of the RTD Telegram group, because that's where the most action takes place throughout the day, back and forth amongst the community, and opportunities for people to share news in real time so we can stay informed. But let me share with you something yesterday that I posted in the Telegram group. So let me share this with you. So somebody posted this, and so I shared it as a screenshot. And it says here, I'll just zoom in so you can see it. It says, if you think Joe Biden was actually elected, just remember, these were the election results before we went to sleep on November 3rd, 2020. Democrats stopped counting and pulled mail-in ballots out of nowhere to give Biden the election. And so everybody who was plugged in saw how literally they just closed all the ballots and say, we're going to continue counting tomorrow because it's late and whatever. And literally, these are the results according to the snapshot that he's sharing. Because, once again, 2020, I don't remember. But in all these key swing states, in Michigan, Biden needed 300,000 votes, and they found them. Pennsylvania needed, let me just zoom in. Pennsylvania, Trump was up 682 votes, and they found him. Georgia, he was up 311 votes, and they found him. And so they don't need to find ballots this time, but they're going to have ballots ready, and they got 30 million foreigners ready. So that right there could be a landslide victory for Biden. And the fact that they're even talking about, like, there's headlines, there's rumbling behind the scenes that they need to replace Biden. They don't really need to replace him, because if you can find ballots and you got 30 million new voters, that's a landslide victory. Like, Biden can literally, if this last election was an all-time high, this could be a landslide victory. Trump may not even have a chance with the level of criminality that these cats are operating in. And so I put, as like my comments on this, if they stole it before, they'll do it again. When the system is rigged against the people, there's nothing you can do but fight or take flight, which means do nothing. So based upon that, Viv, they ain't got to do much, just because the Dominion software is still what we use as our one and only, for the most part, in all the states. And we know that there's a backdoor and a key, and literally they probably improved it to where literally they could just do from one computer, not need to be actually in those locations. And then you got 30 million new voters. It's probably more than 30. So it's like, yeah, it's like, yeah. Anyway, Viv says they don't even need to be alive to vote. Right. Funny how mail-in vote can count for people that don't even live in the state. Right. So they've perfected criminality in all capacities. So we got, what's up? We got Q-Tip from Oklahoma checking in. Appreciate you. More 21. I see you over on Rumble. So that's what's happening in the news, man. Just wanted to share with you what's happening in the surface, what's happening in the natural, hopefully on your side from a practical standpoint. So we talk about the three aspects of our existence: spiritual, natural, and practical. In the natural, we see all the craziness happening. In the practical, it's what you do after you learn about all this stuff that matters most to you. And so practically speaking, It's literally trying to see the foolishness and then come up with solutions around that. And the solutions vary from person to person, but as a whole, it has more to do with like finding ways to insulate your financial situations as best you can so that it buys you more time in this world of ever increasing inflation and everything in between. And so we can learn a lot from watching what the big players do, i.e., those who have real assets that will benefit from the monetary side of things. Okay. But then on the day to day side of things, literally looking for problems to solve, whether it be utilizing your gifts and talents to try to bring value to the marketplace, whether it be, as I mentioned in the video yesterday, about being a hustlepreneur, like literally putting as many irons in the fire as you can, which will literally give you a way to add value as well as prepare for this parallel economy that we're going to see, where it's going to be the main economy and then what they'll call the black market, but it's actually just, the main street economy where people will exchange goods and services, i.e. via gold or silver, or however you is, cryptos, whatever you do, or canned goods or whatever to make do. And so literally figuring out ways to how to practically navigate in these waters is something that will be challenging, but then again, fun, because it's going to force a lot of us to be creative. And unfortunately, because of the education system, as well as just the way for all my life, all my life rather, living in America has been nothing but a blessing and a privilege and an honor, because we've been afforded the opportunity to have any and everything we want instantly with the swipe of a card. So if you don't even have the money, you can go borrow to get. So every aspect of our lives, for the most part, has been funded by having the reserve currency. And as all that changes in the future, it's going to force us to rethink a lot of things. Therefore, it's going to require a whole new level of creativity and forcing people to think outside the box, which with that comes opportunity. And so to me, that is extremely exciting because A, I see it, and B, it's not a choice as to whether or not I'll, have to participate in it, because it's a no-brainer. Like, if you won't work, you don't eat. And if you don't create, you won't work, So, but anyway, that's just the practical side. Like, literally figuring out ways to take advantage of opportunities right now, because there's abundance of opportunities, man. Like, man, it's just crazy out here. But anyway, what else? And then spiritually, like, you can do all that for no reason, for no good. And if you don't have a solid foundation in reference to your faith, trusting God to give you insight, the Holy Spirit to lead you, then everything you're doing literally is in vain, because you're literally preparing, you're preparing goods and services and preps and everything else to be turned over to the next man, because it's only in his life that you get to use those things. So it's a blessing and a gift that God has given us to love and enjoy this moment. And so, yeah, that's what we owe him, I believe. MK says, I never understand liberals' insistence against voter IDs. Liberals insist against voter IDs. Most states require adults to have an ID, and police can stop and ask for an ID, but magically we don't need one to vote. Never made sense. Yeah, but then again, MK, when it comes to the insanity, the deception that has pretty much become standard, nothing makes sense. Like this whole woke culture / systemic evil. I mean, that's what I look at it as. Systemic evil doesn't make sense. So when things that, there's a Bible verse that comes to mind, but I can't think of it offhand, so I'll misquote it. But, it has to do with, when people call evil good and good evil, or when people call good evil good and good evil. I think it's in Proverbs. But anyway, you get my drift. Like, stuff just don't make sense. It's just, you wreck your brain trying to just have it make sense. So don't try. Don't try. Realize that this entire experience we're having now is under the influence of a force that breeds upon deception. So that's why things don't make sense, because people are literally deceived. Their hearts have been blind, their eyes have been closed, and they can't see truth if it slapped them in the face. But I thank God for the spirit of truth that allows me to discern and see through the foolishness. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I can go on and on, but I'm not. But people, as always, enjoy your weekend. Have a great weekend. Love, live, and laugh. And enjoy whatever it is you're getting your hands into. And if you've enjoyed this back and forth this morning, hit that thumbs up button and make sure you hit the bell notification if you want to plug in more often. And also, the RTDQ quick takes. I enjoy putting them together because they're a lot easier than this. I don't have to prepare as much for the quick takes, but these requires more work. And so I'm doing more of those. And so if you guys find value, leave some comments, share, so the algos realize that people do enjoy those quick takes because they're just quick summations of, of a narrative that I try to frame in reference to what I see and put out there in a quick manner. But anyway, be blessed, be safe, man. And we got somebody from here, from Phoenix in the building. Love the show, Mike. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for checking in with us. Man, that's a cardamom, penny royal. Appreciate you, man. All right, well, good people. Be blessed, be safe. Enjoy the rest of your day, man. Love you, be blessed, and stay prayed up. Peace.